Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. October 16th marks the anniversary of the birth of the Bab, a most towering figure, forerunner to Baha'u'llah, in turn, the founder of the Baha'i faith. The Bab came to prepare the people for the coming of Baha'u'llah, a new divine messenger, as otherwise it would have been difficult given the milieu in which Baha'u'llah was to appear. Mid-19th century Persia, filled with prejudices, dogmas, and superstitions for the people to accept him. I thought it would be a good occasion to discuss about the Bab's life. We will be talking about his life, mission, laws, and influence in this session. The life story of the Bab is truly unique. A saga of unsurpassed love, power, and heroism, where within just 6 years and in the face of fierce opposition from the combined forces of the state and the clergy, while in prison and finally executed, he shook the foundations of the nation's morals and inspired the most extraordinary acts of love and devotion. The Bab had a twofold mission. He was forerunner of Baha'u'llah and was also an independent messenger of God, having his own book of laws. It's truly amazing to see how some of the Bab's laws apply even in today's age. To give you two small examples, he said that children should be left free to choose their particular line of study when they grow up, and not be forced to choose what their parents wished for them to study. And he also said that it is forbidden to corporal punishment is forbidden for children. I'm sorry, this is about the twofold mission of the Bab. He was forerunner to Baha'u'llah, another messenger of God, and then he was also an independent messenger of God. Yes, we are doing this now. So, yes, he was forerunner. The Bab was an independent messenger of God who had his own book of laws. That's what we are talking about right now, and instituted new laws. I gave you two examples. But he was also a forerunner to Baha'u'llah, another messenger of God, who appeared shortly after him. Had it not been for the Bab, it would have been very difficult for people to accept Baha'u'llah, given the milieu in which he was to appear, which was that of 19th century Persia. Yes. The first believer in the Bab was Mullah Hussein, a learned religious leader of Iraq. His teacher had said that the promised one's coming was at hand. Mullah Hussein had felt that the promised one would appear in Persia and in Shiraz. That was his own intuition. So he traveled from Iraq to Shiraz to search for it. And Shiraz was indeed where the Bab resided. He was walking outside the gate of the city when a young man approached him. This is the picture of the gate of the city of Shiraz. And the young man greeted him warmly, and he then invited him to his house. This is the door of the Bab's house. The young man, who was none other than the Bab himself, declared his mission to Mullah Hussein, who was at first quite incredulous and asked many questions. This is the room where the Bab declared his mission to Mullah Hussein on 23rd of May, 1844. The Bab replied each of the questions of Mullah Hussein patiently and most convincingly. He also answered the questions that were unasked. The last unasked question was about a certain passage from the Quran, the Surah of Joseph or the Surah of Yusuf, which according to Mullah Hussein's teacher would only be interpreted by the promised one when he would appear. The Bab said, now is the time for the interpretation of the Surah of Yusuf, and started out. He chanted the interpretation as he wrote it down, and his voice was so sweet and the words so captivating that Mullah Hussein was absolutely enchanted and could hardly contain himself. This is the room where the Bab declared his mission to Mullah Hussein. Mullah Hussein has written that he always felt physically weak, so much so that his limbs quivered. He could neither walk nor ride properly. But from the time he believed in the Bab, he felt such power flow through himself that he believed if the heavens and the earth were to oppose him, he would, alone and unaided, triumph over them. And the same came to pass, as we shall see. The Bab instructed him to take up a black flag from Khorasan, a northern province in Iran, and spread his message in every town and village. Mullah Hussein started up his journey, and his companions increased as the days passed. Many left their homes to spread the message of the Bab, and there were finally 313 of them. This was foretold in the Islamic Hadith. Should your eyes behold the black standard proceeding from Khorasan, hasten ye towards them, even though you should have to crawl over the snow, inasmuch as they proclaim the advent of the promised Mahdi, the vicegerent of God. The enemies could not defeat them, no matter how hard they tried. The followers of the Bab took shelter in a fortress when the enemies knew they cannot defeat them. They informed the king, who sent 12,000 soldiers from the imperial army to defeat just 313 followers of the Bab, who were simple or scholarly people and who had never had training in the army. And yet 12,000 soldiers could not bring them out of a fortress. When Mullah Hussein mounted his horse and cried out the name of the Bab, the soldiers would be filled with such fear that they would immediately disperse and flee. And remember, this was the same man whose hands and feet trembled before he met the Bab. The commander of the soldiers, who was a certain prince, heard the cry of Mullah Hussein one day from afar. He was so afraid that he jumped over the window and fled barefooted. 11 months passed. These devoted believers in the Bab suffered from acute hunger in the fortress. They could not come out to arrange food because they would be attacked and killed. So what did they eat? Grass. They ate grass. And when that was all over, they survived by eating their horse saddles. When they felt physically weak, they were spiritually strengthened by a few words spoken by Qudus. Just a few words would suffice. Finally, when the commander knew he could not defeat them, he resorted to lies and deception, writing on a page of the Quran a promise that no harm would come to them if they would only step out, and that he himself would arrange for their safe travel to their hometowns. Qudus knew that this was not true, but in order to respect the Quran, he said they all must leave the fortress. And they did so, only to be brutally attacked, shot, burned, blown from guns. They gave up their lives, but not their beliefs, and stood resolute until their last breath. When Qudus himself was attacked, he started praying, Lord, forgive them. They are ignorant. They have not seen what I have seen. Show them the truth and turn their ignorance into faith. His mother's wish had been to see him get married. On that fateful day, he cried out and said, Oh, mother, mother, where art thou? I wish you were here. I wish you were here with me today. You so much wanted to see my wedding. This is my wedding. You see, he regarded his martyrdom as his wedding because he knew he would soon see his Lord, and that would be the happiest day of his life. The Bab did not reveal a single verse for 6 months. After the martyrdom of Mullah Hussein, Qudus, and the others at the fortress, his pen was still, his heart broken. These are the examples of the influence of the Bab. And to give you another one, I'm going to relate another important historical event. The message of the Bab had spread like wildfire throughout the land, and there was a wave of passionate inquiry sweeping the minds of the leaders and the masses alike. Everyone was talking about the Bab, the newly declared messenger of God. Thousands had already believed in him. The king himself wondered what it was that attracted so many. He therefore appointed the most erudite clergyman, Sayyid Yahya Darabi, who served as the highest ranking religious leader at the royal court, as his representative, to travel to Shiraz, interview the Bab, and investigate into the matter. He told him in private that he would submit to whatever he thought of the Bab. Sayyid Yahya traveled to Shiraz and interviewed the Bab 3 times. At first, he was most confident about his own knowledge. For whichever meeting he attended, no matter who the speaker was, his own words would be the last. No one dared utter a word after he had given his own opinion, no matter what the issue was at hand. In his first interview with the Bab, he asked questions about certain difficult passages of the Quran and the Islamic traditions. When he heard the Bab's explanations, he was much humbled, as he had never heard anything like it before. For his second interview, he prepared more difficult questions. But when he came face to face with the Bab, he forgot each and every question that he had in mind. His mind went completely blank. And then to his utter shock, he found the Bab replied those very questions which had escaped his memory. For his third interview, Sayyid Yahya decided that if the Bab would interpret the Surah of Kawthar unasked, then he would know that he alone could be the promised one, because the promised one alone would interpret that particular surah. The Bab soon asked him if he would be satisfied once he heard the interpretation of the Surah of Kawthar, and started chanting the interpretation while he penned it down. Sayyid Yahya was so greatly touched by the words, the meanings, and the soft chant that he fell unconscious twice in a row, and the Bab revived him by sprinkling rose water on his face each time. Sayyid Yahya firmly believed in the Bab and did not return to the court of the king. He only sent a message to the king saying he had found the object of his desire and he would never go back to where he was. Next, he traveled through the length and breadth of Iran and taught the message of the faith of the Bab in such a way that the religious leaders unanimously decided that the court's supreme religious leader had lost his mind. He was eventually killed for his beliefs. Friends, we shall continue in the next session. Thank you.